It is the Monday after a rivalry loss for the fourth straight year. That's Tim May, the 41-year vet on the other side. I'm Spencer Holbrook, and it is the Monday after Michigan 13, now number 7, Ohio State 10. Tim, we've both done the, I guess, yeoman's work and rewatched the game. Uh, I'm sure fans have not, because if I was a fan, there's no way in hell that I would go back and watch that. What did you think on the rewatch? Because I think I'm even more confused at what I saw on the rewatch than when I was watching it live.
We're talking specifically Ohio State offense here. My view from like when we were standing there in the stadium freezing after the game on Saturday when we did our quick look back was hasn't changed. I don't get what Ohio State tried to do offensively in this game. And you remember I asked Ryan Day about the pass. Why I can't remember exactly how I worded it. That's why I need to look back on it. It's my exact wording. But he pulled out the stats and said, well, we threw the ball 33 times and ran it, what was it, 29 or whatever the number was. And, I wanted to blurt out, well, I would have thrown it. I would have thrown it 10 more times minimum. I did. You posted the stats of the fourth quarter on Twitter, on X, formerly known as Twitter, on Sunday, just again to kind of show people how inept Ohio State was offensively in the fourth quarter when the game was in the balance. When the game was in the balance. And let's admit it, the drop by Carnell Tate on that little crossing route where there was plenty of, I'm talking about the first of their two lone possessions in the fourth quarter, that was huge. That was a huge play because it was there. You kind of like look for that all day, and suddenly it's there. And but that's one of the things. Three things can happen to them are bad when you throw the ball, as as Chip Kelly threw in my face there on one of the press conferences. Not in a bad way, but but my point. I'm talking about one of the press conferences earlier in the year, and I wanted to get into a deep conversation with him about that, but you're not allowed to do that in those press conferences. But the bottom line was it was a day that called for them to throw the ball 5 out of 6 times they had the ball, in my opinion, 5 out of 6 plays based on what they were facing. And a stat that I'm leading off a story I'm writing for us for Monday is the most glaring stat for me was Mason Graham. I think he had 7 tackles in the game, was in on 7 tackles in the game. Michigan's deep star defensive tackle. That just shows you the futility of which trying to run the football to keep things in balance or whatever. I really truly believe you go to your strength, and their strength for Ohio State was throwing the ball. I know it was a little bit breezy, for want of another term, in Ohio State. I mean, it was cold, but I didn't think receivers were having that much trouble catching the ball, and I didn't think Will Howard's having that much trouble throwing the ball. But it was ironic. Fourth quarter going into the breeze, Ohio State basically froze. And I know, of those 33 passes, 4 of them came on the last possession, which was one of the more pathetic possessions by Ohio State all season. But I'm not going to back away from my assertion, which I was making before the game and throughout the week and on here and on TV and on radio, that Ohio State needed not to beat its head against a brick wall, but throw the ball, because that's where its advantage was in this game. That's my final answer.
Are we done then? We good with the video? We good? Because
when in doubt,
listen.
When in doubt, air it out.
We're not talking defense today. I don't care. I'm not talking about the defense. Great job, Caleb Downs, on the interception. Great job, Jack Sawyer, on the interception. Defense did what it needed to until it could not anymore. It had
except for one play.
Yeah, it had a third down stop until it didn't, and then Michigan ran the clock out, and coaching ran the clock out because Ryan Day didn't take timeouts before the 2-minute warning. And then when he did take timeouts, the coaching staff was inept in its personnel and sent 12 guys out there. This loss, and this is going to be the most blunt I think anyone's ever heard me on this show. This loss is squarely on coaching.
I agree.
Ohio State's defense did enough to win this game. 13 points in a rivalry game, you did enough to win this game. 2 turnovers in the second half with a home crowd behind you, you did enough to win this game. I cannot, and I still cannot wrap my head around the offensive game plan from Ohio State. Between the tackles, 14 carries for 34 yards. One of those carries was 17 yards. So strip that out, and you had 13 carries for 17 yards between the tackles. You came into the game knowing that the interior of your offensive line is not where it should be because Seth McLaughlin's out. You came into this game knowing that Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, and Rayshon Benny are three of the best defensive tackles, not only in the Big Ten, but in college football. And as a trio, they are the best as a trio. And you did it anyway. And the one that I keep coming back to, Tim, and I get you need a field goal because you feel like your defense isn't going to let up any more points. Caleb Downs gets an interception on the 16-yard line. The 3 plays after that were 0-yard handoff, 0-yard tight end throwback, 0-yard Travion Henderson draw. You kick a 33-yard field goal and you miss it. That is inexcusable, indefensible. I have no idea what I was watching. They were into the wind as well, or they were with the wind, so you could throw the ball then. And Ryan Day's excuse about being windy, well, the wind isn't going to stop Jeremiah Smith because nobody on Michigan's roster was stopping him when you actually targeted him, and he didn't get a target in that sequence.
He got 6 targets, I think, on the day. I may be
It
wrong.
is just, again, Tim, I will say it again, the offensive game plan, whether that it falls on Ryan Day, whether that falls on Chip Kelly, whether that falls on
both of them,
or the entire offensive staff, is indefensible, and they must answer for this because in the immediate post game, there's a lot of feelings questions. There's a lot of, hey, I've got to go look at it. What happened? What went wrong? That's fine. You can give me that excuse. But the next time we talk to them, it's not going to be, let me go look at it. I know you've looked at it. And they're going to have to answer for the game plan because
here's all that needs to be said. Yeah, here's all that needs to be said. I mean, this is you can be like buzzers and go pick over the carcass. After the Lions have had their share. That's not. I mean, that's not for me. My only thing I want to hear is, boy, we screwed that up. You know what I mean? Or we misfigured. We misfigured on this one. You don't need to nitpick. I'm talking about not you. I'm talking about. If you nitpick every play, you can do that till your eyeballs fall out. You don't need to nitpick every play. You need to just agree that, here's the reason we did this. And you basically answered that after the game, but it fell on deaf ears for me because the ability to throw the ball was there 33 times. The weather conditions didn't keep you from throwing it 33 times. So another 5 or 10. Because that's where Ohio State's strength was. That's where Ohio State's advantage was. Jeremiah Smith, I think, was targeted only 6 times. I may be wrong about that. I'm recalling these from my head, even though I could, as a lazy man, I could have them sitting right here in front of me. I think he had 4 catches or whatever the number was. They did target Carnell Tate. It was Carnell Tate's game to a certain extent, which is unfortunate about the drop. And they may take that and shove it in our face. Well, you know what? Run the same damn play and throw it to him on the next play and see what happens. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes you can try to be too clever, too fine, too stuck in your ways to a certain extent. You got to establish the one. Got to establish a run. Where's that written down? The team that's won the rushing yardage of the last low of these many years in the Michigan game has won it, right? Well, when you can't run it, you got to go the other direction.
The reason that the team who's won has won the rushing battle is because Ohio State used to kick Michigan's ass on the ground with Jim Tressel and then had Ezekiel Elliott. It's not because, this is just an absolute battle and whoever wins the game is because they ran the ball better. It's because the other team was just better at running the football.
Correct.
It's not just like you automatically get points for running the ball. That's the thing that I can't understand about this. And if I'm getting animated, I'm sorry, Tim, but it's maddening to hear. We have to run the ball in this game. We have to run the ball in this game. Who says that? Is there some Geneva Convention type rules of war that I have to follow here? Michigan was better at running the football the last 3 years. Well, Ohio State was better at passing the football. That doesn't mean that Michigan won only because it could run the football. It won because it was tougher in a lot of different regards and a couple other things that we don't need to get into right now. But the idea that Ohio State couldn't win this game unless it had
150 yards rushing.
178 rushing yards or 173 rushing yards when Michigan had 172 is stupid. You don't have to run the football to win this game. You had to throw it to the best players on your roster when you had the chance to. And instead, you ran a play with Trevion Henderson, you ran a throwback with G. Scott, and then you ran a draw with Trevion Henderson, and you lifted on the kicker's foot. I don't understand this whole you have to run the ball. Sorry.
Here's what you have to do. Finally, you have to do what you do best. Meaning
Correct.
You, 2024, 12th game of the year, you got to do what you do best.
Correct.
We've seen the running game disappear against Nebraska. We saw it disappear to a certain extent against Indiana. There are just days when it's not there. And the insistence on wasting a play just to show you can run the ball, in my opinion, is folly. You've just wasted a shot. You have much more of a chance of a pass play breaking at that point than you do a running play breaking. You follow my drift. And like I said, the stat of the day, Mason Graham should have had maybe 1 or 2 tackles in this game, is the way I look at it. I mean, that is the telling stat, that you insisted on running into the brick wall instead of running around it or throwing over it, etc., or into the middle of it, whatever they were giving you, because they were giving you something. Anybody watched that game could see that. And so, yeah, and the quarterback runs. It was one of those games too, Spence. I've covered a few of these Michigan games through the years, where Will Howard ran a couple of times, and he was just short of the first down. You know what I mean? He got knocked out in one of those, obviously. But Ohio State ends up getting it on a great run play with Quinshon Judkins around the left end where he cut it up. Maybe their best run play of the game, except for I think there was one other, Trevion Henderson, nice run. But that doesn't mean you got things solved at that point. And throw the ball, man. I mean, just all you got to do is look at the last drive, Ohio State, for the first half when they went into basically 2-minute mode, and it was there. It was there. Yeah, Michigan was probably playing a little bit soft at that point in the secondary. Who cares? They gave up a touchdown finally. Throw the ball. That's where your advantage was. And, that's where I'm going to stand on this one. I did it during the game when I was tweeting or Xing or whatever you want to call it now, and emoting. And emote's not the right word. I'm just looking at the game. I'm analyzing it like you are from a high above, which is where Chip Kelly was, by the way, and the rest of the offensive staff up there with him. Throw the ball. Throw the damn ball. I mean, that should be the cap, going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I've got this up here, but it's not a prerequisite for winning the game. And I think Ohio State would be very wise to, buck the trend of having the team who wins the rushing battle win, because Michigan is built to run the football. Ohio State is not. Whether you want to be a power run team or not, you're not built that way. That's not how you recruit. That's not how you play 11 games of the year. And here's the other thing, Tim, about the offensive game plan here that I can't really figure out. First possession of the game, Ohio State comes out, runs tempo, right? And they were in a little bit of, not a hurry up, but
they were in a nice mode.
We've got tempo. We're in a rhythm.
Yeah, there you go.
Michigan is out of rhythm defensively because they weren't expecting us to run tempo. You go down, you throw the ball down, then you get in the red zone, you run it for some reason, and you kick a field goal. Okay, whatever. You start the game 3-0. That's fine. You don't do anything the rest of the first half till you get into 2-minute mode, and what do? You run tempo, and you go down, and Jeremiah Smith draws a pass interference penalty because they can't defend him. And then he scores a touchdown. What were they doing on both of those 2 scoring drives? They were running tempo. What did they not do a single time in the second half?
Correct.
Tempo. And Ryan Day talks all the time about pace of play and tempo and wanting to huddle and everything. Well, if the tempo is working and Michigan can't seem to get its footing against your offense when you're running tempo, am I off base here, Tim?
No, you're not off base. When they scored their 10 points, what did they do? Now, they missed 2 field goals. That's huge. I'm not absolving, is that the correct term? Jaden Fielding and the special teams of any blame here because, Michigan made 2 out of 2 field goals, including a 53, 54-yarder. Ohio State missed 2 very makeable field goals.
Correct.
And ultimately, that's what got them beat in that kind of game. We talked about this standing in the stadium on Saturday after the game. Ultimately, you've got to when you're at the poker table there, you've got to use the chips that are there. The chips that were there on Saturday for both teams was field goals, and Michigan made the most of its tries, and Ohio State was 1 out of 3. Not acceptable. 2 out of 3 acceptable. You're going to overtime, but one out of 3, they're all makeable, not acceptable. So I'm not absolving anybody of blame in that regard because you got them. You got the offense close enough to score 2 more times and didn't get it done.
3 more times,
yeah.
Because Will Howard threw a red zone interception.
Yes, exactly.
So
exactly.
The 2 missed field goals and the red zone interception were, I mean, they were bad. They were costly, obviously.
So was the other interception for that matter. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the other interception directly gave Michigan its only touchdown of the game on a 2-yard drive.
Let's see, a cream pie. That's where the cream pie would come whenever I argue they should have thrown it more. The cream pie will come. Well, look, 2 interceptions right there. One deep in the red zone. Just a miscomm between Will Howard and Emeka Egbuka. What can you say about that? But yeah, I can prove anything, God, with it. But you know what? I can turn around and show you the rushing stats, and then you take these 2 plays out of it, and what have you got? You don't even have Thanksgiving leftovers. You got enough maybe to make some soup.
Yeah, I ate all my Thanksgiving leftovers yesterday too.
There you go. That's what I'm talking about. Who wants leftovers?
Yeah, it's becoming a tradition at this point. If Ohio State loses to Michigan, then I eat my Thanksgiving leftovers the next day. It's crazy that it's come to this. I was going to say I don't mean to keep beating a dead horse, but to be honest, like it's the only thing that we should be talking about, the offensive ineptitude here, because it was clear almost from the jump that Ohio State wasn't going to block Mason Graham and Kenneth Graham very well. And they chose to keep bashing their head against that wall. Anyway, I also think can we agree on something, Tim? There's no way that Will Howard was 100% after he went down, right?
I don't know if he was or not. He led the 1 touchdown drive, the series after that. I'm not sure. I thought he was okay. I mean, the way he threw the ball. I mean, I did make that funny quip that when he went back in there at first, he was running the Kansas State offense, but I was just being a smart aleck in the press box. Bottom line was he was pinpoint on that touchdown drive.
It's the
so 1 touchdown drive.
Yeah. It's so jarring to me that the interception that set Michigan up on the 2-yard line to Amir Hall was such a poor throw because of what we've seen from Will this season. It's crazy to me that the other interception was a miscommunication with the receiver who I would say he's been the most communicative with all season, Emeka Egbuka. It's crazy that Ohio State talked about bringing him in because they needed to add a run element for the biggest games of the season. Well, there was none bigger than this. And he didn't really give you much on the ground. And when he did, like you said, he just seemed to be a yard short, which is more just unfortunate than anything for him.
That would be the name of this. That would be the name of this. If you did the movie, that would be the name of the movie, A Yard Short. That would be the name of it.
Yeah, or wide right.
Yeah, or left.
Yeah. I mean, so, all of these things, Tim, all of these things that we're talking about, and we still have to say that Ohio State spotted Michigan 7 points for the second straight year in this game with an interception inside the 10-yard line that gave Michigan just an easy touchdown. Kyle McCord last year to Will Johnson on a slant route to Marvin Harrison Jr. that I think started a Michigan drive at the 7-yard line. This time Will Howard throws an inexplicable pass that Amir Hall picks off and starts it at the 2-yard line. Michigan gets 14 points on turnovers in the last 2 games, really without doing anything other than just being in the right spot. And then scoring the touchdown that they were supposed to score. Meanwhile, Ohio State gets the ball inside the 20-yard line on an interception and does absolutely nothing with it and then kicks a field goal and misses. All of those things being said, Ohio State spots Michigan 7 points. It misses 2 field goals. That's 6. So there's a 13-point swing right there. And Ohio State threw a red zone interception. So there's at least 9, maybe 13 points Ohio State's direction, 7 points in Michigan's direction, just on stupid miscues. And oh, by the way, we haven't even got to special teams, which I want to get your take on because it was an abject disaster across the board on Saturday. So, like, it's just very, very frustrating for Ohio State fans. And I'm not saying it's frustrating for us, even though there is a level of frustration because I know how good this team can be. And I know how good this team still is. I think this team can still win a national championship. But when you make so many errors in the only game that you tell me matters for 12 months, and you get into that game, and in the first half you make mental errors, and in the second half you mentally turtle up, I don't really know what else to say here other than just a long criticism of this. And maybe this isn't what people want to hear, but it's probably what a lot of people need to hear.
Well, here's the thing.
Some people inside the walls. Ohio State fans, let me tell you something about Rhoback activewear. There's only one way to describe Rhoback: best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Rhoback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. Rhoback just released their new game day collection, and it's awesome. With novel polo designs and clean hoodie and Q-zip designs for some of your favorite schools, it's definitely worth checking out. Nobody else in the market is pairing this level of custom designs with the quality of activewear. Rhoback does it better. Rhoback's everyday short are the perfect pairing as well. They are comfortable, have an elastic waistband, and great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice short, but the comfort of athletic shorts. Rhoback is also proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with college stars Jalen Milroe, the quarterback at Alabama, Quinn Ewers, quarterback at Texas, former Buckeye, and Ohio State safety Caleb Downs, one of your favorite players on the team. I know it. Among others, they're becoming the go-to brand for college athletes. They've got a lot of Ohio State stuff, the Blocko on some things, Ohio State logos all over those polos. Use the code Lettermen20 on Rhoback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers through the end of the week. That's spelled RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with the code Lettermen20. Go check it out. Rhoback Activewear. Enter the code Lettermen20 for 20% off your first purchase from our friends over at Rhoback. I've been rocking the Rhoback hoodie for a long time. Come join the fun. You've been wanting Rhoback. Now you've got a chance to get some Rhoback and get the Ohio State logo on Rhoback. Go to Rhoback.com, Lettermen20 for 20% off your first purchase from the folks over at Rhoback.
See, the general public, aka Buckeye Nation, I understand them being incredibly disappointed, incredibly upset by what they saw on Saturday, because they deserved more than that. And number two, like I started writing a story last night, and I've kind of changed it a little bit only because it was being a little bit too petty. But I'll tell you what I was talking about. I mean, these gimmicks, these stimulating things that you see the M's X'd out, and you see the countdown clock, and you see all this. I mean, they ought to get rid of number one of the countdown clock to begin with, because clearly it's been a countdown to disaster for 4 straight years. Go with something else. Go with, if you're going to have a gimmick like that. Number two, as everybody's coming to grips with, though, about the game anymore, it is not the end of your year. It is not the last thing you're going to remember this team for. They're going to get to play in a college football playoff game. Whether they host it or not will be up to the whims of the selection committee on December the 8th, the morning of December the 8th, which is basically a week from today, or 6 days from today. So the bottom line is the season is not over. The grand prize is still out there. The Michigan game now has become one of the prizes of the season. So I understand it being stuck in your craw that you've lost to Michigan 4 straight times, couple inexplicably, but this one made no sense. You should be upset at your coaching staff. I mean, you should be. because and it doesn't mean that your coaching staff should lose its jobs. It's just your coaching staff, in my opinion, was guilty as charged in this one, and move on from there. Step up to the plate, do a mea culpa, and then move on from there because it didn't work. You had Jack Sawyer make one of the great plays ever in the history of the game for Ohio State. Moot. You had Caleb Downs make one of the great interceptions. If you go back and watch that 3 times, you go, how in the hell did he catch that ball? But he did, because he was right where he was supposed to be, and the receiver wasn't. Boom. Moot. That's what bugs you. There were all kinds of opportunities for this team to eventually put a knot on the head of Michigan. Missed 2 field goals, makeable field goals. I think one of them is because he just kicked the ball too damn hard. The first miss. But I'm talking about Jaden Fielding's misses. And just write them down the line. There were reasons, there were opportunities to win this game, perhaps going away, and you blew it with turnovers and then not making enough of turnovers. So that's what this game came down to. Michigan made plays when it had the opportunity, and Ohio State in the final analysis did not. And then on top of that, did I agree with the game plan? No, because you almost look at this and go, wait a minute, it's like they thought Mason Graham was missing, not Will Johnson. You know what I mean? That's literally what it looks like. What are you talking about? Take advantage of it. Intermediate and short passing game, but down the field. Take advantage of it. Didn't do it. And you scored 10 points. You scored 10 points in the game. Inexcusable.
I completely agree. I agree. All right. That's enough.
Boy, I hope the wind isn't blowing on I hope it's not cold and the wind's not blowing on December 20th or 21st.
Yeah, no kidding. So let's spin it forward, Tim. There's not an easy way to transition away from a top 3 rivalry loss in the history of the game, with 1969, 1996, and then this one. I think those are
1995, buddy.
Okay, well, I from the research that I've done and the reading that I've done, I put this over 95. I think 95 was in the Big House, I believe.
They haven't tackled Tim Biakabatuka yet.
I know, but 95 was in the Big House, correct?
Yeah, but who cares? It was winnable.
The 96 and 2024 were both in the horseshoe, which I think makes them more inexcusable.
Gotcha.
But I wasn't there. You were. So I was a month old when they played in 96. I'm 28. I'm 28 now. 95, I wasn't born. So I guess okay, let's just say it this way, Tim. There's no easy way to transition away from the 2 largest Michigan over Ohio State upsets of my lifetime. Fair? Because I wasn't alive for 95. So,
yeah.
But listen, yesterday I woke up.
Wait a minute. If you notice, we're all still breathing. The sun sort of came up yesterday.
That's what I was about to say.
What I'm saying.
Yes, yesterday I woke up before the sun, and then the sun rose, and I was like, "Well, damn, it's here." And Ohio State's still going to be in the college football playoff. You can want Ryan Day fired. That's fine. That's your prerogative, and you can be online about it. I know a lot of you are. You can want heads to roll. You can want Place de la Concorde to have a lot of blood spilled, and this be like the French Revolution. However, Ohio State's going to play in the college football playoff, and Ryan Day is going to be the head coach for the college football playoff. Chip Kelly will, in all likelihood, be the offensive coordinator for the college football playoff.
Of course.
Justin Fry is still going to be the offensive line coach, assumingly, for the college football playoff. So the Buckeyes are going to play another game, and the debate now becomes whether Ohio State is going to play a home game or a road game. We don't have to. The thing about it, Tim, is we probably don't have to wait until Sunday to find that out, because the playoff committee is going to tell us everything we need to know on Tuesday night when they decide to rank Tennessee and Ohio State. Now,
I'm just talking about, the final ranking will be the thing that matters.
The tail of the tape here is that Ohio State has 2 wins over top 10 teams, and Tennessee has 0. The tail of the tape here is that both teams have a pretty terrible loss. One of them to a 7-5 Michigan, the other one to an Arkansas team that's sniffing around a bowl game, but wasn't very good.
Isn't that amazing? That Ohio State's terrible loss is to Michigan.
Yeah, I know. So I don't think that it's really a debate. Tennessee fans are quite confident that Ohio State's going to go to Neyland Stadium and play the Vols in the 8-9 matchup. Where do you think Ohio State's going to be ranked on Tuesday night, and do you think the Buckeyes are going to host a playoff game?
I think they could be 7 or 8. I think it could be 7 or 8 in the final rankings. I think they will host a first round game. I don't know how you could put Tennessee. Let's say let's say 8 and 9 is a debate between Ohio State and Tennessee. I don't know how you put Tennessee ahead of Ohio State based on their schedule. They've got. I mean, they went to Arkansas and got thumped. You know what I mean? That's an almost inexplicable loss. And of course, they got beat by Georgia, but and that was a bad loss. Even I'm talking about, even though it was a good team, it was a bad loss. So I don't know how you put them anywhere. You also have to keep in mind that Ohio State lost to its rival. Yeah, they lost at home. They lost 13-10. The game went down to the wire. Ohio State, the game at Oregon went down to the wire, and that was the number one team in the country based on the college football playoff rankings for these many weeks. So I don't know how you punish them for that. And they went to Happy Valley and won in a very dominant fashion the last 5 minutes or 8 minutes of that game from the standpoint of goal line stand and then dare I say it, running the ball down Penn State's throat, So I don't know how Ohio State has shown enough both offensively and defensively to get your attention, committee. And they have 2 losses by a total of 4 points, one to their arch rival and one to your number one team. So, Ohio State could really realistically be as high as 7th in the, I think, in the final rankings. But, who knows? The thing is, Ward Manuel's on the, the committee chair. So we'll see what he has to say about it. He doesn't have it's not unilateral by him, but, that's the Ward Manuel, by the way, if you're not paying attention, he's the athletic director at Michigan. So we'll see how it comes down. I think the committee's been really good to Ohio State the last many weeks, and they based it on 2 big-time wins over top 5 teams, 2 of their top 5 teams. So that's where I see it. I mean, it would be a shame, though, in my opinion, if, let's say, it ends up being 7-10, 7 versus 10, and 10 is Indiana, and Ohio State and Indiana play again in Ohio Stadium. That give Ohio State at least one non-conference,
I think
game.
I think the committee knows that too. I think you're going to probably get some sort of Indiana Notre Dame or Indiana Texas / Georgia. You're probably going to get Ohio State Tennessee. I think you're going to get a Boise Penn State or something of those magnitudes.
Would you have Notre Dame ahead of Ohio State right now?
I would. Yeah. I mean, they've got 1 loss. It was in September, and they've looked invincible since then. They've played some,
but they haven't played, including USC. They haven't really played anybody.
Yeah, they've played some
Army, yeah,
crap opponents, but they've got 1 loss, and they were kind of knocking on the door of that 5 seed anyway, and I think they'll probably settle in there at that 5-6 range. Maybe we'll do one of these either Tuesday night as a live reaction or a Wednesday morning to.
Wait, let me ask you this: where would you slot Texas if Texas gets beat in the SEC championship game? Where would you slot Texas?
Probably
slot them below Ohio State because they have no true quality wins, with the exception of beating Texas A&M. I guess that is a quality win, but a Texas A&M that got beat by Auburn the week before.
Yeah, I mean, an 8-4 Texas A&M, and Ohio State lost. Or Ohio State has 2 top 10 wins. Yeah, I don't know, Tim. That's probably a good question. I'm very curious to see if Texas does beat Georgia in the rematch, where Georgia lands, because it'll be a 3-loss team.
Yes.
I'm curious to see if Oregon beats Penn State, how the committee handles 2-loss Ohio State versus 2-loss Penn State, but one of Penn State's comes in the extra game that Ohio State didn't play, but then the head-to-head also needs to matter because we've got to keep the
regular. I think it will matter.
We've got to keep the regular season kind of sacred in this sport, or else we lose the sport. I'm curious to see the arguments that the idiots from the South, like Shane Beamer and Kalen DeBoer and Lane Kiffin, do, and the politicking that their chief ringleader, and I say ringleader as in a circus, Greg Sankey, tries to push for his 3-loss
One
team.
of these things is not like the others.
Yeah, I mean, Greg Sankey's going to try to push some 3-loss teams into the college football playoff because he sucks. So, I'm just curious.
Whoa. He does not.
So, I'm just curious to see how all that shakes out, because the politicking is going to begin starting Tuesday. And there's only a handful of teams that are still going to be playing. So one of which, of course, is my Ohio Bobcats in the MAC championship game to Saturday at noon. Now that Ohio State is not in the Big Ten championship game, I will be laser locked in on the Battle of the Bricks Volume 2 up in Detroit. And Ohio State's going to be at home watching everything unfold and wondering what if.
Yeah. Let me say one more thing before you sign off here with your soliloquy, which I enjoy. By the way, I'm reminded of, I think it's at the end of Hamlet. No, it's right at the end of Romeo and Juliet. The great Shakespearean line, like we're talking about Sunday, the sun came up, but remember that line, a glooming peace this morning with it brings. The sun for shame will not show its head. Go hence, speak more of these sad things. Some shall be pardoned, some punished. For ne'er was a tale of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. That's kind of what Ohio State fans feel right now. Bottom line is Ohio State is still alive and kicking when it comes to the ultimate goal of playing for a national championship. But I am not dismissing a fourth straight loss to Michigan, because a fourth straight loss to Michigan kept Ohio State from getting to its primary goal, which was going back to Indianapolis and playing for a Big Ten championship. For the fourth straight year, the loss to Michigan kept Ohio State from doing that. So I think the game is alive and well and kicking. We'll see how it slowly fades as the years go on in this new look major college football world. But the game still matters big time in all kinds of things in terms of Ohio State's goals.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think, Tim, as Caleb Downs, I believe, put on his Instagram, I think he said something yesterday, like the work starts now. It's not a consolation. It's not a consolation for anybody. I'm very honest about how we do this for a living. We're not Ohio State fans, but I also am very, very aware that I grew up an Ohio State fan. I know what these people are feeling right now. Phone calls with my dad have not been fun since Saturday. I will just tell you that.
Did you tell him you can't replay the game? I mean, you might, in other words, you might have got to play them again in the college football playoff, but that's not this world that's right now.
And I know that Ohio State fans are sick and tired of hearing this after the games against Michigan when you get a mulligan like the Georgia game. But I said this in 2022, and I'll say it again here. This Ohio State team, from what I've heard preliminarily from the very few inklings that we've gotten from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center since the loss on Saturday, this team is very, very pissed off. It's very angry. And it has every right to be, especially on the defensive side, because I do believe they did enough to win this game.
Well, wait a minute. Game's on the line. It's 10-10.
I know.
You got to get up. You got to stop them. That's the defense's job. The defense gave up a huge play huge play. The Melling kid, what a great moment that was for him. And then you think, who's his coach? His coach is Tony Alford. You understand what I'm saying? There are all kinds of pinpricks right there that should hurt as much as anything else. And they got down there in field goal range and then won the game. They're still blamed to go around. If it's 10-10, you got to go out there and stop them. That's your job, no matter what you've done to that point.
Yeah, across 60 minutes, the defense did enough to win the game, though. And the offense failed them. But it's not really the players, I think, that failed them ultimately across a 60-minute game. It was a game plan and a coaching staff that I think offensively failed this team. But this is a very angry team. And if you're trying to figure out if you're going to get the 2023 Missouri game or you're going to get the 2022 Georgia game, I think we all know the answer to that. And we'll see what this team does to respond, because I hate saying this because I think the rivalry means more to all of these people who are watching this than anything else. The goal was to come back and get gold pants, come back and rectify losses to Michigan to finally get back on the winning side of the rivalry.
Natty or bust is what I heard.
Look, I was going to get there. It was never Denzel Burke saying, gold pants or bust.
Nope.
It was natty or bust. And this team still, and again, I'm fully aware nobody wants to hear this. This team still has a chance to win the national championship. And the folks in the desert don't just make odds because they like toying with people's emotion. They make odds because they want to make money and also set lines the way that they're supposed to be. This team has the third best odds to win the national championship because everyone knows how good this team truly is and not what they showed on Saturday where they just kind of flopped. So we'll see where this team goes, Tim. Regardless of where this team goes, we're going to be covering it the entire way.
Wait, let me add one more thing. I know you've wound up now to finish.
Go ahead.
But the guys in the desert had Ohio State finally a 19.5-point favorite on Saturday. So the guys in the desert aren't always right.
Well, they also weren't expecting Ohio State to run the ball between the tackles.
14 doesn't matter. They were wrong.
So, all right. Well, let's get out of here. Right now, LettermenRow.com. It's a silly season sale. We've got to push the National Signing Day. We've got the transfer portal that's coming up. For some reason, that's coming up right in the middle of all of this. We've got the college football playoff announcement. We're going to do a lot of deep dives into the college football playoff because the Buckeyes are going to be there. $1 for your first 7 days. Go get that coverage right now. $1 for your first 7 days. Once you give us a week, you're not going to want to relent on that membership, and then you'll want to be a Lettermen Row member forever. Tim May, the 41-year vet, his content resides there. I'm just Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I know this wasn't an easy watch. I know it wasn't an easy listen. But, hey, when things happen, we're going to talk about them. Ohio State 10, Michigan 13, an all-time rivalry upset. Let's not talk about it again now. Let's push forward to the college football playoff and National Signing Day. Full coverage of signing day from Mick Walker and Alex Gleitman over on the recruiting side, upcoming this week. And then Tim and I have got everything covered as far as the Buckeyes going into the college football playoff. We'll see where they land, and we'll see you over at LettermenRow.com.